car living. Car living is on the extreme maximum freedom side. Renting is you got some stability without heavy commitment. Home ownership is heavy, long-term commitment. That's the difference. And that's what you have to ask yourself where you are at in life. Do you want maximum freedom with a lot of personal responsibility? Do you want rental to bridge the gap and to kind of be like medium? Or do you want hot sauce, long-term commitment living in your car? That's the difference. Shelter. Shelter is a human need for survival. Having an enclosure to shield the outdoor conditions from you is a human need for survival. So when you think of shelter, you may think of owning a home. And owning a home may have value if you plan on raising a family and being in one area for a long period of time. But if you're a single person, a person in transition, a person getting out of a divorce, or you're looking for some adventure, you may be debating in your mind, should I rent or should I live in my vehicle, car, van, or RV? I have the personal experience of owning a home for 15 years and living in my car in 3 years. I have never rented. Okay. Why have I never rented? Because when I owned a home, I wanted to live in that area for a long period of time. And when I decided to live in my car, renting didn't make sense to me because I'm a single person. I don't want to live under the rule of a landlord. I don't like to stay in one place. I don't like commitment. Now, renting is less commitment than owning a house. But it's still a commitment. You have to sign a contract, whether it's a short-term or long-term contract. So right there, you see, as you begin to try to sort out what you want to do, you are making decisions on how you want to live and what rules you want to live under. However, to be fair, I stay at campgrounds. I have a campground membership called the Thousand Trails Camping Pass. I actually signed a contract. I paid it up front for a year. It was about $800 for the whole year. So I have signed, in one sense, you could say that's a rental contract, but it's very low commitment, very low cost, very low rules, and I can come and go as I please. If I don't like a campground, I don't have to stay. Obviously, some of those campgrounds, the locations they're located, may or may not be ideal depending on where you live and where you need to live for your job or your life goals or whatever it may be. So location and where you could safely and legally park living in your vehicle is going to determine a little bit if you are willing to sacrifice a little bit to live in your car for more freedom, or if you need the stability of renting. So again, we're going to take home ownership out of this. If you are, again, one of these people that are in a transitional state in your life, or you're tired of long-term commitment, and you're looking at, should I rent a small place or live in my vehicle? Renting is more stable with regards to climate control, with regards to a safe, legal place to park, with regards to just less movement. Okay, when you live in your car, you're constantly moving. Okay, even if you don't put a lot of miles on your car, you're dealing with the public more. Renting an apartment is more of a sanctuary. So you have to be honest with yourself, your physical condition, your mental condition. There's a lot of people that are mentally and emotionally immature, and dealing with people, they have outlashes. They are very uncivil. And it's not a disrespect to them, but you have to be honest with yourself. Okay? Because if you're in the public more and you don't have the mentality, the emotional stability to deal with people, you are better being in an emotionally stable place like an apartment. If you have an extreme mental disability, you need stability. Okay. If you have an extreme physical disability, you need stability. You have to balance your life. Now, if you're self-sufficient where you have mental and physical stability and you could afford to take more instability in your living circumstance, then living in your vehicle may make sense. And you can even take that with regards to financial insecurity. You say, Sam, I want to save money to live in my car. Well, if you aren't disciplined enough to have a budget, I think you're going to hurt yourself living in a car. I think there's more financial stability in living in an apartment because you have to pay a certain amount, but you have a stable environment. When you're living in your car, if you don't discipline yourself on not eating out, if you don't have a set location to park, and if you don't know how to deal with the public, you're not going to save money and you're going to put yourself at higher risk. But if you're thinking of living in your car and you're ready to face these challenges, I also think that living in your car is a liberating, peaceful experience with moments of frustration. There is no perfect living situation. Extreme weather negatively affects car life. You're better off in an apartment. During a pandemic and emergency like we are in right now in America with the coronavirus, living in an apartment may suit the majority of people. The majority of people, no matter what part of society, I think, do better living in an apartment or a house. Or, I would just say renting. But renting, again, remember, it's not a marriage. Renting is not a marriage. It's a short-term dating commitment with the option to, maybe the option to buy, the option to marry. Living in a car is the bachelor, single, drifter life. Least commitment as possible. Even with a campground pass, it's the least commitment as possible. Maximum freedom, but maximum personal responsibility and planning. Living in your car, maximum freedom, but maximum personal responsibility and planning. And so I think you really have to ask yourself, how responsible of a person are you? Now, I certainly met some reckless people living on the road, mentally and emotionally and financially unstable. So there's no exact science to life, but I don't see those people living a good life. I think if you're trying to get your life together, and if you're very unstable, in my opinion, I don't think living in your car brings you value. I think renting a cheap place short term brings you value until you could structure a budget, structure your life, and put yourself together. Even in the pandemic, I met some people that got off the road and are renting again. That's not a bad thing. Because sometimes when you have a real volatile situation, there's nothing wrong with adding stability. And renting is not marriage. You can get out of a rental after a couple months, a year, or whatever. Living in your car, if it's unstable and unhealthy, is not wise. Now, if it is a blessing and you can do it and you enjoy to do it and you're able to navigate the change in society, then again, it could be a thriving lifestyle, but it's a primitive lifestyle. Primitive. It's basic shelter, uninsulated, unclimate control, constant movement. Great freedom. Nice to wake up and know you don't owe anyone and that you could live free, but it still costs money. Renting is the middle ground. You have home ownership, renting, and car living. Car living is on the extreme maximum freedom side. Renting is you got some stability without heavy commitment. Home ownership is heavy long-term commitment. That's the difference. And that's what you have to ask yourself where you are at in life. Do you want maximum freedom with a lot of personal responsibility? Do you want rental to bridge the gap and to kind of be like medium? Or do you want hot sauce, long-term commitment living in your car? That's the difference. I could never tell you what's best for you because you are an individual with your own unique fingerprint, even different than your parents. However, I tried to share in this video some things that I think about. 15 years I owned a home. I skipped the renting because I said, I'm young, I'm healthy, I have stability, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially. I'm going to add some instability by living in my car. There's been times where I almost bought a home again. I do have a sense of a rental with a camping pass to bridge the gap in holes during the course of my time on the road where I want to have a safe, legal place to park. Right now, during the pandemic, if I didn't have an elderly mother, I would have stayed in Florida and I would have bunkered down at a campground. Right now, you don't have the option to go back in those campgrounds because they shut down like the second week into the lockdown. But if I was in that campground when this first started, I could have stayed there and rode this out. And that's what I would have did. But it still would have been a basic life running an extension cord into my vehicle. So, that's what you have to think about. And hopefully this video helped you in some way. I got a whole playlist on my channel. Check it out, with the Nomad Life, documenting my journey. Now, I started documenting my journey living in my car after already living in my car for 6 months because it wasn't a gimmick. I didn't start living in my car so I could have a YouTube channel. Okay. And I didn't want to share with people publicly until I was stable, because living in your car is unstable. However, it could help you achieve certain goals if you plan, prepare, and tie your living circumstance to specific goals. And that's it. Subscribe to the channel if you're not. Click that thumbs up. Let me know below if it's positive, your experience living in your car or renting. And when in doubt, keep your commitments low. But always remember that stability has value. And not being on the hook to anyone has value. And if you have a long-term plan to be in one area, owning a home has value. Everything has value depending on your individual circumstance. God bless.